Hi, everyone. I'm Karen Jones, Executive Director of the Waha Warriors, and I have the privilege of doing an interview today with Shannon and Andrew I knew I'd say that wrong.
Ambasecchio. Italians.
And little Savannah, who's off camera, but she may come up later.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to talk today about Savannah. So if you could start us off a little bit, just tell us about you. Tell us about you and your lives.
Yeah, a little about me. I'm Shannon Andrew. I work in at the DOE, the Department of Education. I'm a paraprofessional for little ones. This is my husband Andrew. We've been together for 10 years, and we have a beautiful little baby Savannah, and another one on the way.
Nice, nice. So what do you do for a living, Andrew?
I'm a New York City fireman. I've
Alright.
been on the job for about a little over 8 years now.
Yeah, that's
So
great.
yeah, great career.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much for what you both do. Education,
Thank you.
firefighting. Oh my gosh, it's wonderful.
A lot.
So first of all, let's start with so Savannah is how old now?
She's 2. Will be 3 in July.
Okay, okay. So tell us a little bit about how the pregnancy and Savannah's birth went.
The pregnancy was beautiful, honestly. I didn't have any nausea, no symptoms. Really, honestly, I had a very nice pregnancy. The birth, I was probably in labor for about 4 or 5 days. I was in the hospital for almost a week. So, that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a natural birth. Everything went fine. We didn't have any issues. So it was just like a completely natural birth that we had with Savannah.
Great, that's great. So can you kind of take us back to when you first realized that something was happening?
Okay. Yeah. So she was about 4.5 months old, I would say. Almost at that 5 month mark. So 2 weeks prior to when we did send her into the hospital, we did take her to her pediatrician for some kind of cough that she had. She seemed a little off, but she was still like her happy self. Her eating started to kind of slow down. Like her appetite wasn't the best. So we started kind of getting a little concerned with that. So when we went to the pediatrician, they tested her, I think, for COVID. It was around COVID time. So it was like 2021 when this was, it was still kind of weird at that time. They tested her for COVID, came out negative. So it was just like, sent us on our way. And then it was, we had our Christmas break. So we went away with my family. And when we got home, we really noticed something was off. I noticed the color of her skin. I kept saying it was yellow. No one really thought. They're like, oh no, she's just pale. I'm like, I'm telling you, something's off with her. She was very lethargic. Again, her appetite was still very, very off. So
she wasn't holding down.
She wasn't holding anything down. So it just it progressed. Like it just got one day, it just all of a sudden it was like she would have a bottle and she would profusely vomit. So I was like, something's going on. Mm-hmm. So then I found out I actually had COVID. So then I was like, maybe she has COVID. So we were back and forth. So I wanted to go get tested. So at that time they were doing the mobile testing in our neighborhood. So I had my mother-in-law take her because, with all the symptoms that she was having. She also had a high heart rate that we noticed because we have a thing called the owlet sock. So when she was sleeping at night, there was always a consistent pattern of what her resting heart rate was. And then we noticed it was really high. So we were like, that's a little weird. But with these things, we know they're not, it's not an official thing for children, but we use it for just, I guess, our own anxiety and whatnot. So when we sent her for the coloring of her skin. Her she was lethargic, she was sick. We did mention the high heart rate.
So yeah, the heart rate was, I think, it was still in the normal range, but the high end of normal, right?
Yeah.
So I really it wasn't don't like really that part of doing ranges because it's like everyone's different. Like if I sit at 97 degrees all the time, my 99 fever is kind of high, where some people 99 isn't high. Mm-hmm. But so they said it was high, but nothing to be concerned about. Mm-hmm. Sent her home and said what they think she ate too many carrots.
Yeah. So what happened was my mother-in-law had taken her to the pediatrician, and we gave her all these, the symptoms that she was having at home. And the pediatrician did the whole regular, checked her heart rate and looked at her. And it was amazing because what she was going through but we didn't know, her hemoglobin, I'll get to that part. When we got to the hospital, she was like, they never checked for hemoglobin at the pediatrician. They just kind of sent her off, and they were like, they tested her for COVID again. They called me, she's negative for COVID. So I'm like all happy. I'm like, okay, so maybe it's my own paranoia. Maybe there is nothing wrong with her. So I'm like, okay, so they tell me to get Pedialyte and try to keep her hydrated that way. And him being a fireman, he's gone for 24 hours. So I'm home alone with her. So I'm trying to get her to drink Pedialyte. She would not drink it for anything. So I'm trying to spoon feed her because I'm like, this child needs something to keep her hydrated. And, so I was like, let me get her pajamas on, got her ready. And then she puked up whatever Pedialyte I gave her. And it was just like, she almost looked unresponsive to me. So I picked her up. I'm starting to pat her on the back. I'm kind of shaking her. Savannah, are you okay? I thought she wasn't breathing. So I'm freaking out. I called an ambulance. They came. I called my husband. He was at work. When the ambulance came, they tested her. They did like a finger prick, for like blood sugar. And here she is sitting up, like nothing just happened. I'm telling you, it was like a freak thing. Like no one like thought something was wrong with her. I'm like, I'm telling you, something is wrong. So they were like back and forth. I had my whole family because then I'm calling everyone freaking out. I'm by myself. So they had showed up and they were back and forth. We have a hospital on our peninsula, but it's really not the greatest. So we had told them we wanted to go to Cohen's Children's Hospital, which is a great hospital in Long Island. So they took us there, and the nurse had noticed her color like I had. And it was funny because I had mentioned it to the guy in the ambulance, and he's like, no, she's just pale. I'm like, I'm telling you, she's yellow. Like her skin to me looks yellow. That probably should have been my first, like, something's going on. I probably should have taken her to the hospital instead of the pediatrician, but I'm a first time mom. I don't know what's going on. And, it's a lot. So we sat in the waiting room for about an hour. She was very lethargic again. She was sleeping. Like she was that's all she was doing. She was sleeping through it, but she was so weak. So they tried to make us a top priority because the nurse had noticed her color. So they maybe thought something with the liver. They checked her.
They checked liver, checked stool for.
Yeah, they checked the stool, blood in the stool, and all these different things. So when we finally got checked in, she was like debilitating quickly. Like we were like, what is going on? So, they're trying to figure out what's going on. And mind you, this was still kind of like weird with COVID. And it was the day before New Year's Day. It was New Year's Eve, I think, when we went in. So I think they were like busy too. So it was just like a lot going on. So they're trying to ask us a lot of questions. And then I had told them, I said, well, I have COVID. So I thought maybe she might have it. So just telling them like, this is what's going on, because they need to figure out what happened. A couple of tests here and there. So they did a swab. And that's when they found out she had two viruses. So she had the rhinovirus and human Nemo virus. It's like two different viruses that she had at the same time. So they knew her body was fighting something. So then that's when they went in and I guess they took blood. They gave her Benadryl and something else and Tylenol, and she puked that up. And that's when I lost it because she was like, so like something was bad. It was getting really bad. And they I feel like they knew it too. So they took her blood and stuff. And that's when they figured out her hemoglobin was extremely low, like so low that I can't even believe that she is alive. To be honest, if I put her to bed that night, she wouldn't be here. I'm telling you, because her hemoglobin, by the time all this was said and done, was at a 2.4.
Oh my.
Yeah. So for her to even be functioning, like, yeah, that's what was so amazing to me. Like when like I took her to the pediatrician, there was no one's, the doctors all looked at her, oh, she's fine, and no COVID, no nothing, but everyone was so COVID crazy. I guess they didn't want to look at anything else. It was just like, oh, okay, she's fine. Right. When the ambulance came, her blood sugar, all this stuff came up fine. And I'm like, okay, so then, I don't know what's going on. So when they told us that, they were like, she needs a blood transfusion. So they said that should, So and thank God, because she was so little, she was a baby. She's
Oh.
a hard stick for an IV.
Mhm.
So, we met many angels in this hospital. I'm telling you, there was, this one guy. He was like, "I'm never down here," and he was our, like our nurse, and he got her on the first stick. He goes, "We are gonna take her right now and get a blood transfusion," and in their minds, everything was gonna be fine. It should be good. We'll figure it out. And then she got after the first blood transfusion, her body just attacked it so quickly. So then they were like, "Okay, another one," and it was just like there was a lot.
Yeah, it was just given straight red blood cells. The white blood cell was fine, so it was packed red blood cells.
Yeah.
And they would, we would try to get her up into the 7s, and then 12 hours later, right back to 3.
Yeah, it was just like it was so severe that it was just
almost every other day a blood transfusion. She wound up getting 24 blood transfusions in
by the end of it.
40-something days.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she went through a lot, like, because then I had COVID, and like I said, it was weird. That day, they had told me that I couldn't stay because as a mother, you want to be the one to stay, so only one parent can stay. And they were like, "Our rules just changed," because they're like, "Oh, you would just have to quarantine inside the room that she's in." And I said, "No problem, I'll stay here," And they were like, "The rules literally changed as of like a few hours ago." They said that I couldn't stay. So as a mother, I had to be sent home, and thank God for my husband. I always say though, I'm glad that he did stay because he's someone that really speaks up. He really, really advocated for her for that week that I couldn't be there. She went through a lot because then they couldn't get an IV, and with all the blood transfusions and everything, they couldn't stick her. So then she had to get
She wound up getting the PICC line.
the PICC line in her arm. But they initially tried to do the IO through the leg, where they go through the bone, and that was like a fail. So that was another really scary night for us.
Yeah, so when really only person that can get her vein was, so like you said, the guy Chris was the first nurse we had. He was on the transport team, so it's like he's someone that will go pick up a child from another hospital and bring wherever, whether he's in the ambulance or the helicopter. Like he's like, "I'm never down here. That everyone's just short staffed." He was able to get her vein right away.
It's a very select few.
It was like they have like that
IV
team was the only people the entire time we were there that can get her vein. Like, and then the night that they were trying to get a vein, they couldn't get it. Her blood levels kept dropping. And then they were like, "Oh, well, they would have like the UV lights out." They had a sonogram out to get it.
Yeah.
Because that's when they were trying to put a more substantial. It wasn't the Broviac or the PICC line, but I guess it was a more substantial IV.
Yeah.
For her blood, and they couldn't get it. And then, like she said, my wife said, they did the IO, and that wound up failing. And then the nurse.
Yeah, so she went through a lot.
Yeah.
So it was a lot that she went through. So, that at that time, I think they still were playing with that idea of what she had. If it was warm or cold, because I know there's 2 different types.
I was going to ask, when did you actually get an actual diagnosis of WAHA?
Like I said, I think I said it in the beginning. I don't know if it was like 2-3 weeks.
2 to 3 weeks
after being in the hospital. Because then they wanted to make sure that her bone marrow was working properly. So they're like, maybe it's that. So then she had to get put under again for that one, and they went through her bone marrow, and they saw that everything was properly functioning. So they were like, that's not what it is. So I guess they ruled that out, and then that's when we kind of got the diagnosis of the warm autoimmune hemolytic anemia.
Wow. And then any kind of treatment? I mean, is she on a treatment now?
No, she just finished, I want to say April of last year. She was on, I have like the whole, but I don't know, there's the list. This is not all of them. Oh, okay. So the treatment that she'd get, obviously the blood transfusions that she was getting, that was like part of her treatment plan. They gave her the IVIG. That was another thing that they did. And then when that wasn't really working, they did the rituximab, which you get 4 treatments of once a week. So that took, I think, because I thought this was going to be our, our heaven sent when they were telling us like this is a great drug, and
Oh, we use steroids too.
yes, yes. So
That was before.
there was multiple things that they were giving her. She was on steroids. She had the IVIG, the rituximab. So like after the 4 treatments, then we kind of started seeing little like,
It's like what we thought was progress, but to them it really wasn't.
It wasn't. Yeah, it was.
Like she was holding around 4, but now we do all this research. Like when you're supposed to be 12, 13, like we thought 4 was great because she was at 2, but
yeah,
she was still in trouble.
Yeah, so the rituximab, she was on Cellcept. That was probably the last one that she was on. She was on Cellcept for a while after everything was all said and done. We slowly weaned off that, so it's been like a year now that she's been off of the Cellcept. She had that, and then she also had there was certain things that they were giving her, like vitamin D, folic acid, certain things like that.
Yeah,
that was treatment.
Sorry, the rituximab, is she still on that?
No, it's only 4 treatments, the rituximab. From what I know, from what they did with her, it was only 4 treatments. It was once a week. She would get the highest dose, and then after she got all those 4 treatments, we started slowly seeing progress. So she was diagnosed in, say, December or January, and her last transfusion was in March, and then that's when her hemoglobin finally started holding, and then it never really dipped again.
That's good. How often does she go back to?
We were doing weekly outpatient, then we were doing monthly. Now we are up to every 6 months we go to our hematologist and they check her blood.
Oh.
They do like a finger prick and they check, they make sure everything's good. Sometimes they'll draw the blood to do a more little advanced blood work, but yeah, we just go. Now we go every 6 months.
Oh, that is that's traumatic. That's just traumatic. Yeah. I've never heard a story like that before, especially with a young one.
Yeah, her case was so rare that we had people from like all over, like Texas. They were talking to doctors, and because it's so rare in babies for that to happen.
Right.
We heard about other cases, but she's actually going to be a case study. It should have been out, but from the last time we spoke to her hematologist, there was another child with the same, with WAHA, with her. So they wanted to kind of study that child as well to see, because the treatment that they used for her that worked, they wanted to, they want to make sure of that.
I think there was four children in this case study, and now the next child going through it right now will be the 5th.
Yeah, so I guess that they're just
finish that process before they.
Yeah, and then her case study should be published.
Oh, I look forward to reading that. I think that would be
probably a crazy read because it really was wild.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Well, I'm thrilled that she's doing better now, and now you know what to look for if something happens and it comes back.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
I mean, yeah.
When she gets sick, or some kind of virus, now I'm better with it. But when I was like so scared for her to get something else after everything was all said and done, because then I was like, is this going to offset? Is this going to trigger her with the autoimmune hemolytic anemia? But they were very, the doctors were amazing. They were very reassuring. It shouldn't, but they can't tell you 100%. But they're like, we're pretty sure like this, it shouldn't ever happen again. But you never know.
Right. Right. Wow, I'm thrilled that this is a happy ending, and and I was thrilled I got to see her at the very beginning.
Yes.
I was going to
say hello.
Is she there? She want to wave?
Yeah. She's got her tablet.
Hi,
Savannah. Hello, Savannah.
Oh my gosh, she's adorable.
Say hi.
And she's gonna be a big sister here pretty soon.
Yes. To a baby brother. So we're very excited.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing Savannah's story with us. We really
thank you.
And I know that we have on our AHA Awareness Day that we will have some very interested people looking at or listening to the story, and be really thrilled that you shared with us.
I hope we were okay, because we're not the best at storytelling.
You were wonderful. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.